Welcome to Podcasting with Friends Movie Edition. Today we're going to be doing a special episode focusing on horror movies, specifically horror movies of 2017. In this episode, we will briefly discuss the success of Blum House, the hits like Get Out and Split, before talking about the mega success of It, the controversial Mother, and we're going to run down a slew of standout indies and Netflix originals to recommend to you. First, let me introduce who I'm here with today. I'm sitting next to Derek Deal.
Hello.
And Brandon is in New York, live with us via Skype.
Hey, guys.
Before we get going, I want to take a minute and talk about some of our own personal experiences with horror. To me, horror is a genre that incites intense emotions with people. Some people love it and some people hate it. You know, it's one of those genres where some people like they really, really get into horror and other people don't want to be bothered by it at all. It's like a totally turn off for some people. I mean, for me, I've grown into loving horror. Like, it's a safe way to experience the intense emotion of fear. You know, you can laugh about it when it's over instead of actually being in danger. So that's fun. That's the fun part of horror, I think. Like, what about you guys? Derek, do you want to give a little background on your experience with horror movies?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been, like, horror movies, horror games, anything scary, I'm, like, really, I've always been very, like, I'm easily scared by them, especially, like, games and stuff like that. There's just been games where I just stopped playing. I'm just like, I can't play anymore. Yeah. It's too scary, even if it's not that scary.
Yeah.
And horror movies were kind of always the same for me growing up. But ever since we did our first horror movie month,
that's when we would watch a horror movie every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a challenge.
Yeah, and I kind of forced myself to just watch these movies that I regularly didn't, I usually didn't necessarily give a chance to,
Sure.
And just going through and forcing myself to watch all these movies that people had recommended and I'd heard about all my life kind of opened my eyes to how much fun horror is.
Yeah.
And how unique it is and how creative it is. When you like watch a comedy and there's not a whole lot of experiences like it when you're just like laughing so hard and there's like these things that you just remember forever because they're so funny. And horror is just like that same, I get that same kind of rush from it, just in the opposite way. It's like when someone does something that's truly creepy, like makes your skin crawl or like makes you close your eyes or something.
Yeah.
Even though you're completely safe from it, like what you said, it's like, I don't know, that's a cool experience to have. And even when it doesn't, a lot of times horror movies aren't that scary, but they're just great movies.
Yeah.
That try to scare you. And that's fine too. And I just have appreciation for like all of them for trying.
Yeah. So. Definitely. What about you, Brandon? Is there like a particular favorite experience with horror movies that comes to mind for you?
Well, for me, I'm really bad at horror experiences by myself. Like Derek said, I have to often just shut it off and wait till it's either lighter outside or there's more people in the vicinity. Here in New York, it's actually more easy than it was back home, like growing up at my parents' house, just because I feel way more safe, just people everywhere. But one of my favorite horror movie experiences was a long time ago at the end of high school. There was a big group of friends. I think you were maybe there, Nick. We got several extension cords on my parents' property who live in 10 acres of woods. And we carried a TV out to the middle of the pitch black on Halloween, our like senior year. And we moved some chairs out there and we watched the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre deep in the woods. Yeah. And that was one of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had. Like, complete blackness around you. If it wasn't for the light of the movie, you wouldn't be able to see your hand in front of your face. Kind of darkness. That was so fun.
Yeah, that was a really good experience. I remember that very well. If you guys don't mind, there was one other time that I wanted to talk about that came to mind when you were telling that story.
Mm-hmm.
It was the three of us. And it was like right after high school. In my small bedroom at my parents' house, we watched The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
I remember that.
And like we're post high school, and I remember all three of us being like afraid to leave the room because the movie was so scary.
I remember the bathroom's like 5 feet away.
Yeah, and we were like, "Don't go to the bathroom!" Like we were like scared to leave and go to the bathroom. And I remember like looking up pictures of
Captain Howdy.
Yeah, Captain Howdy from The Exorcist, and like, man, we were like just freaking ourselves out. It's like so hard. Anyway, the first topic on the agenda is Blum House. We already talked about Split and Get Out on our spring roundup episode that came out earlier this year. You can listen to it in our archives. But I still want to talk about the success that Blumhouse has because they're having a huge year. Derek, do you want to give a little bit of background on Blumhouse?
Sure. Yeah, they so they're a little now they're a pretty big production company, but they specialize in low budget horror films, but not like the traditional like low budget horror film that you can think of like B movies. Yeah. A lot of them do make it to theaters. Most of them do. And they're generally fairly well received, and they tend to make a lot of money. And by low budget, I mean, like, some of them are down to, like, $1.5 to $3 million, and oftentimes they end up grossing, $80 million, sometimes more. That's, like, their average. But they've made movies like Paranormal Activity was his first really big hit. Made like $169 million worldwide off of like a $15,000 budget.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and since then they've had so many hits like the Purge, Insidious, the other Paranormal Activity movies, Get Out, Split,
Whiplash.
Oh yeah, Whiplash. Yeah.
Wait, Whiplash was a Blumhouse movie?
Yeah, that was a Blumhouse movie.
Wow, I did not know that.
They rarely take on anything that's not outside of, or that's outside of like sci-fi horror. I think just because horror has a pretty good turnaround, even if it turns out not all that well, But yeah, just keeping that budget low and forcing. He has like a couple rules, like no visual effects. They don't like using or no CGI.
Okay.
No CGI.
So like just practical effects.
Yeah, practical effects. No like expensive like giant shots and stuff. It's all about just like keeping it small, tight, and creative, and just working within those restraints. And they've turned around some pretty good movies because of it too.
Because both even just this year, both Split and Get Out were huge successes, and both were really good movies.
Yeah.
Me and you, we both saw Happy Deathday earlier, just a few weeks ago, which was another Blumhouse movie.
Yeah. Which
that movie was basically like Groundhog's Day, but in a horror movie.
Yeah.
What did you think about Happy Deathday?
I thought it was all right. I don't know, the whole concept of it just like was so exciting to me. I think I probably hyped it up a little too much in my head. It's just like that, I don't know, that just sounds like so much fun. And for the most part, the movie was actually pretty fun. It didn't really I didn't have a lot of negatives to say about it, but it, just wasn't it wasn't the strongest movie. They definitely could have improved on some aspects of it, but for the most part, it was really fun. I'm glad that somebody made that movie. Yeah, like I definitely wanted to see
Groundhog's Day.
Yeah,
Groundhog's Day as a horror movie.
Yeah, and it had I don't know, it had a fun story. It had a cool, interesting enough character that we got to see change and everything. I just think it kind of suffered from the PG-13 rating.
Yeah, so for me, it was I remember I was driving home with my brother, and he was like, "So what was your favorite death in the movie?" Yeah. I mean, she dies 15 times. Yeah. So what was your favorite one? And I was like, honestly, hardly any of them come to mind. Yeah. We just saw the movie, and there wasn't really a standout one. There was, she died in a car once, and she got stabbed a bunch of times, but the deaths weren't that exciting. Yeah. But for me, what worked with the movie was the main character. That just seems to be a thread that goes through all these Blumhouse movies. Is that it was Happy Deathday was a PG-13 horror movie where the violence wasn't really that great, but I actually really got into the characters. Yeah. And I really got into Jessica Roth as tree as this girl who's repeating the day over and over again and gradually becoming a better person.
Yeah.
That is a really big missed opportunity in the film Happy Deathday, to have the deaths be one of the most like average bland parts of it, in a concept where she's going to be dying every single day and they go through that at least 15 times. I feel like that should have been such an important thing for the director to hone in on and to get right, is making each one of those different, unique, scary, and memorable.
It definitely should have been like a really big brainstorming session with like all these really...
Yeah, they should have had a giant whiteboard and they should have just kept upping the game for every single one of those deaths until they had something extravagant each time.
Yeah, I kind of think that was the limitations of it being a PG-13 movie, though. And that, like, if it was R-rated, you could have, like, you know, Saw-esque, like, deaths where blood is flying everywhere and it's, like, elaborate contraptions or whatever. But it being PG-13, it's like they can't make the deaths too violent or bloody just because of the rating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad.
And I know, but like I'm telling you, the movie kind of balanced on the other hand, where like there were parts that got me. Like I was talking about before, like there were parts where like I verbally shouted something at the screen, or like she came back to life when we thought it was over, and I was like, what happened? Like, how did she die? You know, like, why is she still doing this? You know, and like because I was invested in the character, I was still being got. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that just reminded me of, I did actually, Blum House with Jason Blum was just on the Nerdist podcast.
Oh yeah.
And he did mention his one thing he likes to before like a movie gets finished, he said like his requirement is that the movie needs to be able to work as a drama without the horror elements or supernatural elements.
Oh yeah.
As much as it works with them. That's a sign that you got a good horror film on your hands. If the drama can hold up on its own without that, then... And I think that movie did. Like, the relationships and everything could be like...
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that mindset. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I think this movie is a really good representation of Blum House and the statistics that they get out of their box office. Because this movie wasn't like a smash hit, like Split and Get Out were earlier this year. It made a decent, but not crazy big $43 million. When you compare that to its production budget, which was $4.8 million.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge.
They knocked it out of the park. That's huge gains for them.
Yeah.
Even though like not that many people are talking about it and it won't be remembered for very long, they still just made an incredible profit off of this film.
Yeah, for sure.
That's gigantic. Okay, so moving on, I think it'd be remiss if we were to not talk about the biggest financial success of a horror movie in many years. It, based on the Stephen King novel, remade from the 1991 miniseries starring Tim Curry. It, the dancing clown Pennywise. Huge financial success this year. To date, it has made $321 million, breaking tons of records. Basically, like, why do you guys think it was so successful? I know, Derek, you've seen it. Brandon, have you seen it?
No, I have not seen it yet.
Okay, so why do you think it was so successful?
I think it was successful because of the clowns. I think scary clowns has been really popular in America for the last 10 years. People joke about it all the time. It's a common thing everyone talks about, and it hasn't been seen in movie form for a very long time. And I think people just wanted to go with their friends and wanted to have that group horror experience, and they all kind of converged on it together to go see it.
Yeah, I think you are definitely onto something with the clowns. I mean, there were, I feel like for the last year and a half, there have been sightings of people just dressing up as clowns and scaring people in the woods and doing those kind of things.
Yeah, clowns being scary and not funny has been like a really popular concept for a while now.
Definitely.
People that were able to go see this movie, this rated R movie, so 18 and older, all of them grew up knowing like the Tim Curry It.
Yeah.
Whether it be from like family members or like them actually seeing it when they were younger or not seeing it when they were younger because it was like a scary clown, you know.
Yeah.
And now like it being remade and revamped for like their generation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was just that nostalgic pull on top of things like Stranger Things and stuff. Yeah, like bringing that Stephen King like horror like creativeness to like the front and center again. Like it's kind of it's on like an upswing right now. Like
Yes.
it's just becoming a really popular. It's fun to like make in 2017. It's fun to make like stories and stuff that take place back then. It's like I don't know whether it's just because that's like our age or what. It's just like for whatever reason, because this was updated too, right? Like it didn't, the book and the old TV show didn't take place in the 80s, right?
Yeah,
But this
so,
does.
Yeah, the book goes back and forth from when the characters were kids and when the characters are adults.
Yeah.
And the book, it's the 50s and the 80s.
Oh, okay. The
And so-
older generation is in the 80s though.
Yeah, the adults are in the 80s,
Right.
and the kids are in the 50s.
Yeah.
And so the movie, they made it so that, they updated it so that the kids are in the 80s, and then when they make a sequel, which they've already announced,
Yeah.
it will be modern times.
Yeah.
So the adults will be 2016, 2017,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready for the clown cinematic universe?
I mean,
Yeah.
Because we know they're not going to stop after 2.
yeah, I mean, you joke about that, but exactly, it's like it was such a success. Like, can they only make 2 It movies? Because there really should only be 2 movies. Because I mean, that's how the book was set up, and that would tell the whole story. But
I'd have a lot of respect for them if they just did 2, and they're just like, all right, what's next? Like, let's go make something else.
I mean, there's so many Stephen King books. Like, they could easily make, not easily, but like pretty much all. I mean, there's already been a lot of Stephen King movies, but a lot of them are really bad. So they could easily go back and remake some of these other ones that people nebulously know about, but maybe not are super into. I mean, Children of the Corn. That's one that's like pretty cheesy, but like the concept could be updated. The Stand.
Cujo.
Yeah, Cujo. I mean, Killer Dog. I mean, I don't know how well that seems to me be more of a Netflix original one, but I mean, The Stand is an epic. Like, that would be an epic movie. Like, they could go in and make more of these. I don't know. Part of me thinks that they're going to make like a Pennywise origin story, and it'll be kind of weird.
For sure.
Well, in the meantime, we can be excited for the sequel, but it's definitely like, I know we mentioned this, I think, on our last podcast, but just like, besides its success, which is really exciting for a horror movie to do that, I know I had like that's probably one of my favorite movie-going experiences of the year too.
Going to see it?
Yeah, it was just like having the packed, like a completely sold out theater.
Yeah.
And like super loud, booming movie. And
yeah. And like, I want to reiterate, like, it was a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Like, the first one, the made-for-TV original one that people talk about with Tim Curry was great in it, but that movie was not good. It was a very poor movie, and this movie was very competent. It was a very, like, especially the beginning of it. Like, there were a few scares in the beginning, like when they first see him through the drain pipe, and then when they see him through the projector and he starts coming out of the projector and they have to open up the garage. Like, those type of things were real good scares.
yeah.
My only problem with the movie is that it kind of became less scary as it went along.
Yeah.
But that was almost purposeful because the kids were kind of becoming less scared of the clown.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's one of those things where that's just how the movie was set up.
Yeah. And that's the weird thing about horror movies. It's like, when that happens, it's not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
But depending on your perception of horror movies, sometimes it is.
Yes.
Like, I know people that are like, well, that's why it's a bad horror movie, because it got less scary as it went on and stuff.
But you were scared in the beginning of it,
Right.
so you know.
Right. And like for me, I prefer the good movie.
Yeah.
And like when they're able to be scary, that's great. But usually it doesn't affect my enjoyment of the movie if they get less scary. Sometimes it actually makes it better for me, but that's just my own personal preference because I get scared really easily.
Okay, so I kind of feel like we should move on from it. I think another horror movie that came out in September that was very divisive was Mother. Darren Aronofsky directed it. It came out, Paramount produced it and put it out, and it straight up bombed. Like, it got an F cinema score, which is a rating for people who see movies the first weekend when it comes out, the first night it comes out. So audiences did not like it, and it got a very mixed critical response. I personally loved it, but there's a lot to discuss about it. So it's going to be hard for us to discuss Mother without going through spoilers, but we're going to do our best. Brandon, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I loved Mother as well. I thought this film was like brilliant, and after coming off of Noah, I'm so glad Darren Aronofsky is completely back on his game. This film was so well crafted and well put together, like completely visually stunning. And even as the movie was picking up and spiraling into chaos, while most people were really turned off by the direction and the story that it was telling in the last 30 minutes of the film, with Darren Aronofsky behind the camera and the amount of perfection he put in the visuals during that chaos, I think completely like mesmerized me and carried it all the way through to the end. But it'll be one of my favorite movies of the year for sure.
Yeah, man. So I've actually seen it twice now.
Whoa, nice. Derek, have you seen it?
And,
No, I haven't.
man, you're missing out.
I know, I really want to.
Yeah, I mean, it's an experience. I mean, so I remember first of all being in the theater for it, and they showed the trailer for Mother, and it was so hilariously over the top. It was like words flying at the screen, like next week,
And it had
in this theater.
it had the narrator guy. Like
Yeah.
The next week.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it did.
Next
I need
week.
to find this trailer because the regular trailer for it is like has that quick violin like tremolo playing the whole way through, and it's super indie and matches the tone of the movie really well.
Yeah.
I've got to see this ridiculous trailer.
This one was like, in this theater, you will never forget where you were when you saw Mother. You know, just crazy. And so we saw Mother for the first time, and I walked out the theater, and I was like trembling. Like, I was like, okay, people are looking at me. Like, I don't really trust anyone right now. This is weird. Like, real life is weird. There's so many people all around me. What's happening? And then I had to drive home, and there was traffic, and I was like, we're probably getting into a car accident and die because the world's a crazy place. Just like my perception of the world was different. You know, it was a Friday night. I got home probably around like 7:30. I think I went to bed around 9. I was like, I don't really need to see anyone or do anything tonight. Like, I just don't really feel up to it, you know? And so the first time see Mother was like intense and crazy. Real spine in the spine horror movie feelings. The second time I saw it, it was much funnier. It was practically a comedy, and in a good way. Like, I love that movie so much because I was able to have very intense, different experiences with it, and I think that's kind of part of the point of the movie is that it's a very abstract movie, and you kind of take different things out of it based on your own experiences. People have argued about what the meaning of it is. what the point of it is. And I would say that it's not clear what the point of it is. A lot of the plot doesn't necessarily make sense in the real world, but that's part of the point of it, is that you watch it and you take bits and pieces, what works for you, and where the metaphors fit, and you kind of come to a conclusion, and then you have a discussion about it with the other people who you saw it. Like I said, the first time I saw it, we walked out of the theater, Shannon, my fiance, was like, "Oh, well, that was about religion." And I was like, "Really? I thought it was about Darren Aronofsky's personal marriage falling apart." And she was like, "What? I didn't get that at all." And so we had very different experiences. We talked about it. We've, it's kind of, it's up for interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that movie has several different paths going on simultaneously. There's also the really clear environmental message in it that comes out towards the end as well. But all those things can exist simultaneously, and a director can put those in purposefully. I'm not a big fan of diagnosing metaphors and symbolism in movies. I kind of, for some reason, like to take things a little more at face value. But I did really enjoy the exaggerated parable that this movie was playing in. And I did get a lot out of that in the end.
What do you guys think of Paramount's statement they released after this movie?
Well, what was their statement? Which statement was that?
Well, they but I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but they released something everyone was so after the whole cinema score thing started going around about nobody liked watching the movie. They're like, "Hey, we're trying to do, everyone loves it when Netflix does stuff like this, and they release this indie movie that's super bizarre and stuff." Yeah. You're like, "So this is just our version of doing that. We want to be able to give directors that that stage to do weird things like this."
Yeah.
Without having to rely on Netflix to do it.
I think this movie is so much more harmless than I think everyone's making it out to be, as far as the cinema score rating, all the response that Paramount is giving and that they're asking Darren Aronofsky to give, and all the controversy over how much symbolism should be in a film before it's just a bad film. I don't know. All this stuff is kind of really annoying, and it's kind of frustrating to me that people aren't talking about how just brilliantly well crafted and put together the movie is.
I don't know, man. I see why people don't like this movie. It's not a movie that an average moviegoer would go to and just be like, "Oh yeah, that was a fun time at the movies." It was very strange. It's very out there, and it's I think it would have gone over better if it was released in an indie run kind of way, where if it came out in your indie theaters. But this movie was wide released. It played in Marysville, it played in Everett, it was playing at all the big theaters. So you had just regular casual movie people going to the movies on Friday night, and let's go
see the new Jennifer Lawrence movie.
Yeah, let's go see the new Jennifer Lawrence movie.
My God.
It is not that movie, It's not a movie for casual people. And so to me it's pretty brave for Paramount to put this movie out like that. And yeah, it totally bombed, but it did get people talking about it. And for me, for 2 weeks after the movie came out, I had people asking me about it, and I was part of me was challenging people a little bit. People would ask me about it, and I would tell people, I don't think you're gonna like it. And by me telling people that I didn't think that they were going to like it, that was almost well, why are you saying that? You don't think I'm going to like it, and then they would actually end up going to see it, and getting a lot out of it. So I don't know. It's a very original movie. Mm-hmm. Moving on, we've got Halloween coming up this next week. We just wanted to kind of go through some of the movies that are on Netflix, some horror movies that are on Netflix that we thought that are worthwhile, that maybe you could check out if you're trying to watch something horrible before or around Halloween. One movie that we've already talked about on our spring roundup is Raw. Real quick, I'm just going to read the plot summary for you from IMDb. When a young vegetarian undergoes a carnivorous hazing ritual at a vet school, an unbitten taste for meat begins to grow in her. So that's Raw. That's currently on Netflix. Derek, Brandon, do you guys want to briefly talk about why you liked it?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this will be in my top 10 at the end of the year. This is one of my favorite horror movies I've seen in a while. It's a French cannibalism psychological movie. It's not like a cannibalism slasher murder movie. So it is really in-depth and interesting and goes through what this college student is experiencing really well. Yeah, I can't believe it's on Netflix already. I'm recommending this to everybody. They should check it out if you're a fan of horror films.
Like, Derek, did you like Raw? Did it get you?
Yeah. I thought it was a really cute coming-of-age story. No, it is, yeah. No, it like your definition of like getting me, that definitely happened in at least 2 scenes in that movie. It definitely has like some of the gore is pretty nasty, and it's definitely like satisfying for a horror fan, even if you're not into like movies that get super arty. I think it still has a lot to offer, but also like as a cinephile, like you can appreciate like the craft in it a lot too.
Yeah,
it's very beautiful, very well made.
Great. So yeah, that's on Netflix. Another movie I want to talk about is called Gerald's Game. It's based on the Stephen King novella, so it's another Stephen King movie. Reading the plot summary from IMDb. While trying to spice up their marriage in their remote lake house, Jessie must fight to survive when her husband dies unexpectedly, leaving her handcuffed to the bed frame. So neither of you guys have seen this movie, right?
No. I'll be watching it really soon, though.
Was this produced by Netflix?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
So for me, I definitely did enjoy this movie. It kind of is in the same realm of Misery, where I don't know if you guys have seen Misery, but it's the same kind of thing, except this girl Jessie is handcuffed to the bed and she can't get off. So she's trapped onto the bed. Yeah. A lot of the movie you're questioning. I don't want to say a lot of the movie you're questioning because you know that she's not actually talking to her dead husband or herself, but it kind of plays with the idea of reality and what's in your mind or not. And that's kind of what separates this movie from just any other movie where someone might be trapped in a place. This movie actually goes inside the person's psychological issues and kind of explores what's real and what's not real. It's one of those things where I can't really talk too much further about it because I don't really want to talk about spoilers, but I thought the movie was very interesting and took some real solid risks. Like, they made some bold choices that I thought were really fascinating. The ending really bummed me out. The ending did exactly what I don't like, and that's over-explain things. Like, I'd rather have things left a mystery and live in more fear, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd rather have it be more nihilistic and maybe more, like, more imaginative. But the movie went out of its way to explain everything, and that kind of bummed me out.
I think there's like a really big bold line in narrative, like just any sort of storytelling, it seems like, and it seems to be split right down the middle. I find just as many people that want to be explained everything as I find people that want to have things left in the dark and like left it up to your mind. So it's kind of just you bringing that up because I've heard a lot of praise about the ending also. But it's just kind of interesting. I think I'm more like you. I prefer like if you're just gonna reveal everything, like the whole magic trick at the end, like that's less exciting than if I'm left in the dark trying to figure out like what just happened or how it happened and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was just thinking about like narratively. I've heard that, and I think that echoes a lot in like a lot of TV shows and stuff, and movies.
So it could just be like a matter of taste.
Yeah, it could be.
Or just a matter of skill in the way you present it to the viewer. I mean, like, you could do it subtly throughout the movie and give the person just enough to piece together, as opposed to, you know, have someone monologuing for 3 minutes at the end, going step by step on what you need to know. There's creative ways to do it right, and there's ways to do it wrong, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so moving on, another movie that's on Netflix is called the Transfiguration. It's definitely a low-budget indie movie. Plot summary: when troubled teen Milo, who has a fascination with vampire lore, meets the equally alienated Sophie, the two form a bond that begins to blur Milo's fantasy into reality. This movie is basically a vampire movie, very aware of other vampire movies and vampire mythology and lore, and it makes you question whether or not the characters are actually vampires. I thought there was a lot to take away from this movie that was totally worthwhile. Brandon, you disagreed.
Yeah, not so much. I didn't enjoy this film kind of at all. There was some interesting concepts. You just mentioned it. A vampire movie about some people who may or may not be vampires was actually really cool. And I loved the scenes that explored that mystery. And the way they concluded it, speaking of Gerald's game's ending, they kind of did the exact opposite of Gerald's game and left it very open-ended and left you thinking about all the different times they had hinted at who the main character actually was. So I did like that aspect of the movie, but I thought the movie was a little bit too slow and meandering and maybe could have worked better as a short film.
Yeah, I mean, I said almost the exact same thing when I finished watching it. I was like, yeah, I got kind of bored in the middle a little bit, but the ending really got me. I think it's worthwhile to check out. It's pretty short. It's only 90 minutes. But yeah, we have mixed opinions about it here. The final movie I want to bring up for you guys is called Berlin Syndrome. It's on Netflix. Reading the plot summary for you. A passionate holiday romance leads to an obsessive relationship when an Australian phone journalist wakes up one morning in a Berlin apartment and is unable to leave. This movie, to me, is very scary and extremely worthwhile. It's not supernatural at all. It's just about this girl who's traveling around Europe. She goes to Berlin. She meets a handsome, charismatic gentleman. She goes to his house. She hangs out with him. It starts out consensual, and it quickly becomes kidnapping. Like, it gets to a point where she cannot leave the apartment. What works about it is that you believe every single thing that the characters decide to do. Like, this girl is trying to escape, and every single choice she makes sense. And you're right there with her through all of it. It's a very confusing and frustrating situation, but she tries her best, and you're right there with her.
Yeah. I love horror movies like that, where despite the characters always making the best decision for them, it still continues to not work out. Like, makes me think of Don't Breathe or Green Room. It's like you're actually watching people struggle for their life, but in actual, realistic, smart ways, even though it doesn't necessarily work. There's too many horror movies of people being stupid, and it's too frustrating. I like it when the opposite's happening.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a classic trope from like the 80s, where, you know, the slasher Freddy or Michael Myers is coming after you, and you're dumb, and you're getting killed. But it's much more interesting when the characters are either, you know, fighting back or being psychologically intelligent, where maybe they're not getting out, but you're totally with them and you see the process that they're going through.
Yeah, totally.
This movie works on all of those levels. It definitely got me in the ways that, like, I don't know. I watched it with Shen, and like, she's been a real sport this month. I've been watching a lot of horror movies. I'm doing the horror movie challenge this month again, and she's been a real sport because she's not super into them, but she's liking them more and more. This one, man, it had some moments where like both of us were just shouting at the TV, like, run, go, 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 oh my God, just shouting. And after the moment's over, she's going, this isn't fun. Why are we doing this? My stomach hurts. I'm stressed out. This isn't good. I don't like this feeling. And I'm literally like rolling around the bed because I'm like, we just went through this crazy like moment. I'm rolling around the bed going, I don't know, but at least we know we're not actually in danger.
All right, you totally convinced me. This is going on my Tuesday night Halloween list, Nick. I'm going to turn this on after work when I get home, for sure.
If you could recommend 3, just like, we're not talking about, like, not 2017, but just like 3 horror movies real quick that you think anyone listening should watch, what would it be?
Are you asking me what my like top 3 are?
It doesn't have to be top 3, but like the 3 you're most quickly to recommend someone.
I mean, I think The Shining is I think it's the best horror movie. It's my favorite. It has the slasher stuff going on, but it also has like deep psychological stuff, and Stanley Kubrick is just a master.
Yeah.
I think there's so many different ones. I just put together a top 50.
Oh wow.
And I have it on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
You could check it out. I mean, I think I have The Exorcist at number 2. A lot of that's part of like how classic that movie is, and just the Captain Smarty Pants like real 1-second clip like really scares me. But like some people argue that The Exorcism of Emily Rose is like just as scary, if not scarier.
Captain Smarty Pants?
Is that what you just? What's his
Captain
name?
Howdy.
Captain Howdy, whatever.
Captain Smarty Pants. Alright, that's great. That's so good.
That's actually a little bit scarier, I think.
Captain Smarty Pants.
Yeah, Smarty Pants.
Well, what about you? Like, what's the first ones that come to your mind?
The first one I always, especially you guys, because I don't think either of you guys have still yet to watch it, is The Innkeepers. I always tell people to watch The Innkeepers.
I've had multiple people this month recommend that movie to me, and I actually forgot to tell you, I watched the first 15 minutes of it earlier this week, and then I fell asleep.
Aww.
And then I woke up and it said epilogue, and I was like, oh man, I missed the movie, but I really want to watch it. I'm very close to watching it.
Yeah, it's like one of the movies that really just brought me into horror really quick. Like, it just hits all the checkpoints for me. I think everyone should give like an Eli Roth movie a chance, like Cabin Fever or Hostel or something.
Yeah.
I know we've like gushed over him on our horror movie month podcast back in the day, but those are always really well done. And
they're not for everyone because they're super gruesome.
Yeah.
But like the characters and the world building that those movies make are amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, M. Night Shyamalan is classic for us.
Yeah.
Like Signs, Sixth Sense. I'm super into The Ring. I rewatched that again this year. I like kind of watch that every October. I love The Ring. That was kind of the Kickstarter for me with horror movies.
Yeah. A really fun, easy one to watch that, like, especially for people that aren't like really into horror, is I love the remake of Fright Night. I love the old Fright Night too, but I actually like the newer one more.
Oh.
And I've seen that. That's one that I watch almost every year. It's just it's really fun, and it's not super scary. It's just like it's a blast.
Yeah. What about you, Brandon?
Well, you guys touched upon a few of them, but I think my very first horror movie love And one that I can still close my eyes and psych myself like out about actually visualizing the creature is the film The Mothman Prophecies.
Oh my gosh, I
Oh,
knew you
yeah.
were going to say that.
Yeah, Mothman for sure.
Gosh.
That was like one of my very first horror movie loves that terrified me for years.
Yeah, no, Mothman. The thing about the Mothman is that he's not actually like trying to hurt anybody, but he's so scary.
Yeah.
He's so tall and red eyes, and the way he gets described in that movie over and over again is scary as fuck.
What's his name on like the? Doesn't he have like a name?
Indrid Cold.
Indrid Cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie's great.
Oh, and you hear his voice too. Oh my
Yeah.
god, it's coming back to me. Oh.
Yeah, in terms of like modern classics that have come out recently, you mentioned earlier Green Room. I think Green Room is like fantastic. We talked about that on our last year's episode, end of the year episode, and It Follows is another one that I think is like really creepy, and it's got like that 80s kind of vibe, and it has like echoes of like warnings about STDs and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love that movie.
Goodbye, Mommy.
Oh my gosh.
I haven't
Good
seen
Night,
that.
Mommy.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, Good Night, Mommy. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Good Night, Mommy is so scary.
Is that the one with the mom that has like the face all covered up and the two
Yeah.
kids don't know if it's really her or not?
Yep.
Okay, I haven't seen
Exactly.
that yet. But...
Even like 10 Cloverfield Lane is like, it's kind of a thriller, but it's kind of a horror movie too. Like, they're trapped and you don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I think that movie.
The Babadook.
yeah.
The Witch.
Oh yeah, The Witch.
There's a lot of really good recent horror movies these last 3 years.
Yeah, for sure.
I just watched the original Frankenstein for the first time this year and loved it.
Was it scary?
How long is it?
It's like 60 minutes. It's pretty short. But like yeah, it's 71 minutes. But like the visuals of it are so classic, and like they really like the monster is just, he's so confused and like relatable and yet so terrifying. Like it's one of those movies that maybe like I don't think I've seen until this year, but watching it was like I'd seen it before because it's been like
It influenced like so many movies.
exactly,
You
it's been like
feel it.
parodied over the
Yeah.
years, and so it's like I've seen all these visuals before, but like the drama of it and the fear of it and the makeup was so good that I was blown away. I like really loved Frankenstein.
I think that's like one of the most attractive things about the genre. It's like you can make up every aspect of the movie. It can be like something that no one's ever heard of, and you can make it like a horror movie that works. Like it should be like the most I don't know. There's like no limit on creativity because there's no like realm of reality that you're working in or anything. It's just like completely whatever you want.
You can just make up whatever.
Yeah.
Real quick, I will say it's not necessarily a movie, but the scariest thing filmed that I've seen this year in 2017 was the last 5 seconds of season 3 of Twin Peaks: The Return. When that moment hit, I was by myself. It was like almost midnight, and like I got so many chills up and down my spine, and I just gasped as the credits rolled, and like I haven't felt that way in a long time.
It was kind of perfect. It was also very unsettling and also kind of anticlimactic, but there's a lot to unpack with it. I can't wait to watch it season 3 again.
That's a big tangent, but scary moment for me this year.
Definitely. Well, great. I think with that we should just say goodbye. Derek, where can we find you online?
Twitter at Chicken Tack, Letterboxd at Chicken Tack.
Brandon, what about you?
I'm mostly on Instagram, Brandon_Bolby, and also on Letterboxd. You can find me BEB, that's Beb.
Cool. I'm Nick Moffat. You can find me on Twitter at Mothman23. Same thing on Letterboxd, Mothman23, or just my name, Nick Moffat. So thanks for listening. I hope that you watch some horror movies and get some good scares. Have a nice night and happy Halloween.
Bye.
Bye.